Hello and welcome to domytriesthis. I hope you brought your cuppa. Today's coffee cup is actually brand new. I picked it up last night, Sunday night, from Kroger. I saw these and they were, actually I got a discount for having my Kroger card. So this was about $5 for me, which is really nice. A lot of coffee mugs nowadays are running between $8 and $15. Really expensive. But this one was really nice and I really like it. So there we go. We've got our little reindeer and the inside, see the edge, the whole inside is red, just like the handle. Today's tea is double Bergamot Earl Grey from Stash. This is a tea I've had in the past. It's been a while. It's one that I do enjoy. I was actually hoping to find my Christmas Eve tea, but I didn't have any on hand. So we're just going to go with the Bergamot, which I already know I like. So I'm going to give it a sip and then we'll get started. This is probably the most black tea. It is a black tea. It's the most black tea tasting tea that I actually like. It's really, it's got a slight bitterness in it, but it's still very, very good. It's not a dessert tea, which is interesting. Because as we all know, Domi is a dessert tea girl. So today we're doing I'm going to do another kind of Christmas look for our Whole and Healthy Wednesday. I've already prepped my face. For new, I've got my Pretty Poison palette that I just ordered. This is a beautiful palette. I'm actually only planning to use this shade in here because, like I said, we're going for a Christmas look, and I'm going to mix this with another shade from another new palette, and that would be the Violet Voss Fruit Sorbet. I'm going to mix that with this red to kind of, this is a very orangey red, and I kind of want to, I don't like orangey reds. I prefer more of a blue red. So we're gonna mix those two colors and see what we can come up with that. In the old and semi-new, but in the old, we are going to use our ColourPop Make Up Your Mind. I'm planning to use the silver from here. And from my Vanessa's Vanity, I'm planning on using this color. Let me pull this out here. Vintage Champagne on my upper eye. That's going to be the first one we're going to start with. And to complete our Christmas look, I'm going to be using a blue and a green. I'm going to be using the green and the lighter blue here from my Cheers to the Beauty Colored Rain palette. As I've said before, most of these colors you can probably find in other palettes or in, similar colors that will work for you. So let's go ahead and get started. Hopefully I can keep a better eye on my camera than I usually do. I'm going to start with that Vintage Champagne under my brow. I'm using my Alamar floofy brush that I got in a boxy charm. So getting started. As I've mentioned before, I'm going to put this under my brow, and it's going to be kind of a nice shimmery shade since we're doing a Christmas look. So as I've mentioned before, I had tried to lose weight several times, and I would lose about 20 pounds or so and quit, because then all of a sudden my body didn't want to lose weight. And I just didn't have the right motivation at the time. I just wanted to be thin is what I wanted to be. And that's not the right motivation for most people. For some people, that'll be enough. Wanting to be thin, wanting to be a lighter weight will be enough motivation to keep them going. It wasn't for me. It isn't for most people. It's also not quite the right motivation to keep the weight off. Motivation is a really, really big deal, as I was going to find out. I'm going to take a little bit of this highlighter that she has in Athena. So this is Athena, and I'm going to put that over that a little bit as well, I think. I'm going to finish the other eye first. By the time I finally got my right motivation, I was almost 300 pounds, and I could barely get out of bed, and I had all the signs of ill health that are pretty much weight related. I had high blood pressure, I had high cholesterol, and I was starting to eat healthier by that time. Our house at the time was a split level, and we didn't have enough real bedrooms for everybody, so we had our kids in the upstairs and we had our bed down in the living room, but the bathrooms were all upstairs, and I had to struggle to go up the stairs just to get to the bathroom. And I struggled to do dishes. I would hunch over the sink, and I would be in a lot of pain, especially in my back. I think I mentioned before that I had a back issue that nobody could find, and we still don't know what it was. I still have that issue, but it's not as bad because I've lost some of the weight and I've done things to strengthen my back and my core. But at that time, it was excruciating. So just standing up to do dishes, just standing up to go grocery shopping, it was agony, and I needed help. Oh, I like that. I like what that did. It lightened everything up. Don't even need that much of it. Nice and light. Beautiful. Even when I did manage to go grocery shopping, I needed help loading the car, unloading the car, putting things away. I was pretty much bedridden. I wasn't walking anywhere. I wasn't doing anything. It was very, very hard. I couldn't do anything. I really couldn't. And we ended up having a big disagreement, an altercation with my girl children over a few things. One was, at the time, my husband was finishing up culinary school, and they wanted to move out, but he wasn't working. So there was a risk of us losing our housing. And that made me realize that if they weren't willing to stay to help us out, they may not be ready to take care of the brother. Now, to be fair, my girls are very, very protective of their brother. You cannot treat him badly. You cannot call him retarded. You cannot do these things that a lot of kids do. They will fight you for it. They are protective of their brother. The girls didn't seem to connect the fact that us being in trouble put him in trouble too. Like I said, though, they love their brother. They are very protective. I think it was just kind of a developmental thing. You know, in your early 20s, you don't always make the connections you need to make. Do you know what I'm saying? So they aren't bad girls. They're and in fact, things have improved immensely since then. Quite a bit since then, thank God. I'm going to take this silver and I'm going to put it across the lid. So we had a big altercation about this whole thing about them moving out when, most parents want their kids to move out. But we kind of needed them to stay so we could stay afloat. Everything ended up working out, but at the time, like I said, it made me realize that they may not be quite ready to take care of him. And I was bedridden and pretty much, a heart attack away from leaving him without his mother and going to people who weren't ready to take care of him. Okay, so that became my motivation. This is that silver, like I said. Like that combo. Nice and silvery, and then it goes up into sort of a pinky gold, so that's really beautiful. Anyway, so realizing that he was going to need me around for a while and that I was a heart attack away from leaving him without someone who was ready and prepared for him, that finally got me going. And he became my motivation in a whole lot of ways. And that made a huge difference. Because yes, I initially lost weight quickly. You initially lose a lot of water weight when you start losing weight. And that weight will go off very fast. and I lost 20 to 30 pounds in the first few months. It was pretty easy, and yeah, I just, you know, I changed the way I was eating a little bit. I started tracking my food, and like I said, I was bedridden, so I was not quite capable of doing, wasn't quite capable of doing vigorous exercise yet. I mean, I could barely walk at the time. So, I started off with stretching and yoga in bed. Now, that's not to say I didn't try to do some other things. But I discovered pretty quickly that, no, you cannot do the dancing thing yet. I've been saying that since then, my journey has been less about weight and more about health. But back then, it had to be about weight. I had to be able to get on my feet. I had to lose some of those extra pounds. I had to bring my blood pressure down. And the ways to do that were to lose some of the weight, at least enough so I could get on my feet on my own. I'm going to take this red from the Violet Voss Fruit Sorbet, and I'm going to mix it a little bit. With this color called Jealousy in the Pretty Poison, the Bad Habit Pretty Poison palette. I'm going to use this Luxie small shader, and I'm going to put that in the outer, those two in the outer corner, over the Silva. So we're going to dip a little bit in this, and then we're going to dip a little bit in this Jealousy one. Let's see what this does. Put this in this outer corner. And go across a little bit. There we go. Just like that. It's coming off very pinky, probably because of the silver, which is fine. I'm going to get some more of this red. Might need a deeper matte. Yeah, see, this red comes off very orangey. We'll go with it. We'll go with it for now. I did want something a little bit more deeper on the red side. I think the Jealousy color is helping, but not as much. Anyway, so I initially started stretching. I actually didn't really start recording my food. That's helping a lot. I didn't actually start recording my food until I hit my first bump. Because honestly, when you're that heavy, and if you're just starting activity, cutting your food just a little bit helps. I mean, you are going to lose weight, at least initially. And like I said, a lot of that is water weight. So be right back. I'm going to get the other side done, and I'll be right back. Okay, so you know what? I'm going to add a little bit more silver to the one side because I think it went a little low. But beyond that, I'm liking this look. So we're going to take a little bit of this silver and just put it underneath there a little bit. Again, using yet another set of Luxie brushes from a BoxyCharm. So let's talk a little bit about that motivation thing, because it honestly is quite important. I'm going to start with my Cheers to Beauty now, finally. I'm going to put that green in, this beautiful green. I'm going to put that in the crease and do my little point, and then we're going to use this blue to deepen everything up. Putting that green in the crease and moving on. So, let's talk about that motivation thing. Motivation is tricky. If you're not motivated enough, you're going to lose your first few pounds, and you're going to stop losing weight, and then you're going to get upset that you stopped losing weight. If you don't have the right motivation, you won't keep going. And that's what kept happening to me. That is part of the reason I think a lot of us end up on the diet go-round. We start trying to lose because we're making someone else happy. We're trying to, I know once I tried to fit in a wedding dress. I just wanted to lose a little bit of my tummy. I didn't. you've got to have the right motivation, or you're going to hit that bump and you're not going to get very far, and you're just going to end up regaining the weight. And as we talked about in the last one, regaining the weight, every time you do that, you're messing around with your body's metabolism. You're slowing it down, and you're making it harder for the next time when you want to lose weight. This is going to be a very shiny look. I don't mind. I like shinies. I know there's a lot of people who are like, no, there's got to be mattes in there. Not me. I'll take shine. I'll take shine. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to go this way towards the middle of my eye to try to blend these colors in just a little bit here, so that that line is a little less distinct. Yeah, that's better, I think. It's still kind of like it stands out a bit, but that's fine. It looks better that way. It looks blended out. I'm going to take the brush I got from my Ipsy last month. This is a Gauche, don't know. I'm going to take this and I'm going to get that blue and I'm going to deepen up my crease. So if you're thinking about getting on the health or weight loss bandwagon in January, you really need to think about your motivation. Honestly, for some people, just getting thin or getting less weight will be enough. They'll hit that bump. They know that bump is coming. They'll have plans on how to get over it. But for most people, that won't be the case. Even if they have plans, they'll get frustrated because sometimes your body is pretty stubborn about keeping that weight on. And of course, you're sitting there and telling it you have to eat less, so your body's kind of acting like it may never see food again. I'm going to go a little bit underneath here just to bring whatever else I do under here into this. And I'm going up a little bit in the corner. So you need to think about those things. You need to decide what is important enough to you. You cannot do it for other people in the sense that other people telling you need to lose weight. Even your doctor telling you to lose weight probably isn't going to be enough to get you motivated. Being thin for most people isn't going to be enough to lose weight. And honestly, being thin is kind of overrated. I know that that's what our society is hooked on right now, is be thin, and we have trouble finding clothes for larger sized women. We're starting to see that change a little now. But being thin is overrated. You can be just as unhealthy thin as you are fat. So, being thin for some people can be enough of a motivator, but for most of us, being thin isn't going to be enough. Losing the weight, again, probably not going to be enough. Losing the weight is kind of the goal, sort of. The goal actually should be to be healthier, but you're going to need to find something else. Going to need to find something else. You really are. Something, for me, it came down to two things. I needed to be there for my son, and I had watched my son, who has autism, have to figure out how to speak, how to fit in with the world, how to go to school, all those things. Now, granted, some of those things he didn't have much choice in. He couldn't arbitrarily decide not to do them. But a lot of those things were kind of required for him to be able to communicate and engage with other people for when he had, when he needed something or something like that. And those things he never gave up on. So in a lot of ways, he was also my inspiration as well as my motivation. He can't give up. So neither could I at the time. I did eventually stop on the weight thing, but I didn't stop on the health thing, and we will talk about that another time. But the big thing is that you have to find the motivation that's going to get you moving and keep you moving when you hit your bump, because it's going to come. Your body doesn't want to give it up. It's going to come. So be aware if you've not, and if you've been on a weight loss journey before, and 90% of you probably have, you already know this. You hit a bump, at some point you stop trying, and then you gain the weight back. So that obstacle, you have to be aware of it. You have to be prepared with the motivation that will keep you going even when it gets real and it gets hard. Okay, I am liking this look, but I think it needs a little bit more depth. So I'm going to take this black butterfly, which is kind of a purpley blue black, and I'm going to deepen up my crease a little bit with it. It just needs more. The blue is in there, it works, it just needs a bit more depth to it, I think. So a couple of tips I have that ended up helping me those first few months. I haven't done it in a while. I probably should be doing it, but I haven't done it in a while. But it did initially help me significantly when I hit my first bump. I created, this is my big tip, I created Post-it notes. And I shouldn't say I created Post-it notes. I wrote messages on Post-it notes, and I usually wrote the same message on every Post-it note, and I made sure to put the Post-it notes where I would always see them. My mirror in the bathroom, my planner that I always had open because I always do my to-do list in my planner, so I was always looking in my planner, on the fridge. Any place that I knew specifically that I would see every day, I put that Post-it note. And depending on where I was at in the journey, those Post-it notes changed over time. But initially it was something like, you can do this. You can lose the weight. You can change your eating habits. You can be healthier. Just remember what you're doing it for. Those kinds of encouraging messages. Yeah, it's only a little bit darker, but that's what I wanted. I think that's much better. I'm going to deepen up my green. I'm going to add a little bit more of that green too. I'm going to take this one, get that green a little darker on the outside. There we go. There we go. That shows you how different brushes can really make a difference, because now that is really green. That's what I wanted. It's dramatic, but I like it. I like it. I think I like it. Let's take a look with the eyeglasses on. These looks, I go very heavy because, you know, glasses. That silver is just so shiny. I'm going to take some of this debonair and I'm going to pop it on the inside here, just to bring down the shiny just a little bit. I need to find the right kind of brush. Well, we'll just use the same brush we used for the silver. This is a matte color. Don't want to overdo it. There we go. Well, I could have just used the debonair instead of the other two. And I'm just sort of brushing it inwards without making a solid line, so that my silver is just popped in my middle. Hope I don't lose this look too quickly, because my eyes are being very watery today. All right, I think we're done with that. And we are going to take this thin crown brush, going to dip it into the rosé first. Okay, so I cleaned up, tapped some of that off, and reapplied some primer under there. This kind of problem doesn't help when you have watery eyes like me. I'm going to attempt to use, I got this, I think this was from Ipsy. I can't remember the Steve Laurent. I'm not sure, but I'm going to use this green and I'm going to mix it with the electric from Vanessa's Vanity a little bit, and I'm going to try that on the inner corner of my eye, underneath my eye, I mean, just to see if we can get something just a little bit more Christmassy and a touch less muddy. I may have to go in and grab some more blue for the rest of it. But there we go. It's a bit on the shiny side, but that electric is shiny, baby. Alrighty. I think that looks a little better. Looks a bit more Christmassy. That's all I wanted. Using the same brush, I'm going to once again get some of this Opulence, this blue from the Cheers to the Beauty palette. I'm going to add it because I took that green all the way across, and now I'm going to add it to the bottom, this outer half of the lower lash line. I'm going to get my Urban Decay waterline pencil. I got this in, I think this is like a natural or a beige or something like that. I'm going to clean up my waterline. I don't generally put stuff on my waterline. I prefer my eyes to look bigger, and putting stuff on your waterline can close them out. So I'm going to use this to just sort of, well, it's going to spread this a bit, but it's also going to lighten it. Actually, it's doing something really interesting. I turned the whole waterline kind of that light coppery goldy green. All right, so the eyes are pretty much done other than the eye lining. I'm going to go ahead and finish up my face, and we will close everything when I come back. What do you say? Be right back. So here's our finished look. I've already had to do repair work on my eyes. For some reason, they're in overdried today, especially this one. So a lot of the green is already gone. I did a silver and gold mix on my inner corner, and that's almost gone. So it's probably not looking as good as it was a little earlier. I don't know if it's going to make it through Ipsy, but here's the look. I used my usual ColourPop and setting spray to do my eyeliner, and then I used that really dark color in the Colored Rain palette over it to give it kind of a shiny glimmer. I really like that. I don't like the way the wings themselves came out, but anyway. And continuing our theme in old and new, I used an old blush. It's probably just, an old, my old ColourPop bronzer in Rodeo Drive to do my contour. Old and new for the blush, I have a new NARS in Chameleon that was sent to me for my birthday that I cannot open. It's one of the most popular NARS colors. I use that underneath. An old ColourPop Drop of the Hat, which I use to give it kind of a golden shimmer over the top. My highlighter is actually almost all new. Actually, it's all new. I used the two Vanessa Vanities. I used just a little bit of this, and then I popped a little bit of that over because this ended up being very, very rosy, and I wanted it to be a little less rosy. So that worked. Lips are new CoverGirl Demi Matte, which I've been using a lot of lately. Covered up with an old Smashbox Be Legendary. I think it's in chrome or red chrome. I'll list it down below like I always do. And of course I used my old Lippy Sticks primer and an old Sephora lip liner to help clean up the lines a little bit. So that is our look for today. Getting back to trying to bring everything together. Oh, I also used an old powder, but I haven't used it, so in a way it's new, and that's the FitMe Matte and Poreless in Pure Beige. Like I've had it for a while, I just don't reach for it very much, so I used it today because I've been noticing that my nose has been a little shinier than usual for winter. It's very strange, but I think it came out really nice. And I mixed foundations. I used two old foundations, or relatively old, and that is my TruBlend in the L6, which is Buff Beige. I used 3 pumps of this, mixed it with a pump of my Vichy Minerals 89, and then I added about 3/4 of a pump of the CoverGirl TruBlend Matte Made. I think the shade match is better when I mix the two of those like that. So this was 3, the Matte Made was 1, and then I had about 1 of these. And I really do like the finish it gives. and it doesn't look drying on the skin. And yeah, I'm actually really enjoying mixing those. So that's the old and new for the look and everything I've done to, you know, add to it. Floofy hair because I slept on it when it was slightly damp last night. This is what I get when I sleep on my hair wet. Lots of floof, not a whole lot of definition, but a whole lot of floof. That and the Diva Curl in there. Yeah, so big hair. So getting back to our final thoughts for a little bit. So yeah, we were talking about motivation and those the early weeks of when you're trying to lose weight and you're just starting your journey, especially if your journey requires that you lose weight to start with, because some will require that you lose weight. Others, you can start just focusing really on health. If you've only got, you know, 20 to 50 pounds to lose, quote unquote, I don't think you really need to focus so much on the weight unless there is a real problem, unless that 20 to 50 pounds is really causing severe issues like you can't get out of bed or some of the things that I was having. When you start hitting 100 or more pounds overweight, which I pretty much was, then you need to start rethinking. You do need to start losing weight a little bit, especially if you can't do things like get out of bed. So losing the weight actually helps get you to where you can start focusing more on health. Although when you're losing weight, hopefully you're focusing on health too. But the biggest important thing is there's going to be bumps in the road. I've mentioned this several times. So you need to make sure your motivation is something that's going to get you through those bumps. So when you spend a week or two or a month or a month and a half not doing anything or even gaining a little bit, you don't give up. And whatever that motivation is, it usually has to be something personal and intrinsic. You know, like I said, for me, it was my son and knowing that I needed to be around for him a while. There was only one way to do that. That was to lose weight and start focusing on my health, especially later in the journey when the weight became a bigger issue with menopause. We'll get into that later. So you have to find something that is desperately important to you, and you need to be able to remind yourself of your goal and of your motivation every day. I didn't have to do much work to do that because my son lives with me, and he will live with me until I have to live with one of my kids, and then he'll probably live with me with my kids. So but yes, he will be living with me for a long time. So I see him every day, and that is my inspiration and motivation. I get to see it every day, which is why I suggested having some sort of post-it note kind of message that you can put on several different post-it notes and plaster into places that you're going to look at all the time, and then keep repeating them to yourselves. Because one of the things that can really stop us is our own internal tapes. And our own internal tapes, you know, we'll hit the bump or something else will happen and we'll overeat one night. And the next thing we're doing, we're beating ourselves up. We're telling ourselves we're a failure. We can't do this. We're horrible, whatever. We need to change those tapes. It's very important to change those tapes, which those post-it notes can help with. So as long as you put some encouraging message on there, you can do this. You know what your goal is. You can take it a day at a time. You can, and the various things you want to do. For example, I put down, you can cut your calories a little bit. You can do this. You are capable of this. You are aiming for your healthiest you. Those kinds of things that will, you're not a failure, you know, things that will remind you that one, you're human, so you're allowed to make mistakes. Two, what your motivation is. Need to be here for my son, just do it for him. So what you're trying to do, your motivation, and also those encouraging messages to combat the negative tapes we have in our head that can make us give up. And also, do say that, don't give up. You can do it, don't give up, keep going. They have to be messages that will mean something to you. If it's like, for example, one of the problems I've always had trouble with is sugar. So I don't see sugar as necessarily bad, but I can eat too much sugar. So, for example, your girl is someone, I don't go through a half gallon of ice cream in a day, but I can go through an entire package of candy in a day. I wouldn't even think about it. I would just keep on eating it. And the next thing you know, a whole bag of candy is gone. So I had to put down on my Post-it note, you can cut back on sugar. And I had to repeat those things to myself. And I would look at the note and repeat it to myself. And I would look at the note in the mirror and repeat it to myself. And every time I saw the note, I'd make sure to read through the note. So those things actually really helped me get through a lot of the rough stuff. They helped me get through the days when I was feeling like, you can't do this. So those are like my 3 things for you to get started. Well, I guess there's 4 things. Pick your motivation wisely. Post-it notes. Know that there is a bump that's going to be coming. And one of the things that we will have to discuss further in a future one, because we're getting kind of long, pick activity that you can do and that you enjoy doing. And that's what we're going to have to talk about probably next time, hopefully, because we're going to hit the middle of the journey. Hello. Yeah. That's my little rogue. Hold on. Come here, come here, come here, come here. It's my little rogue. So, say hi. That's my little rogue. She's our old lady. She's tiny like a kitten, but she's an old lady. Anyway, so keep those things in mind as you start looking forward to January. Again, we're in the middle of the holidays. Don't start this now. You're only going to make it harder when your family is, you know, doing the good food and bringing over the cookies, and then you go to Christmas dinner and it's huge and you're going to feel, yeah, don't do it now. Wait till after the holidays. Don't necessarily make it a resolution, but already have things in mind and planned, and start thinking about the motivation, start thinking about the activities you would like to do to get started, and determine whether or not it needs to be a weight journey or if it can just be a focus on health, because those two will actually be a little bit different. And so those are my tips and how I started and why I started and how I found my that's how I lost my first initial 30 pounds. And then anyway, so from there, we're going to now say we're done. You want to say we're done? You don't want to talk anymore? Okay, I'm going to put her down. She's ready to go. Anyway, so we are done. Yes, we are done. I hope you like what you've seen, and that if you're not a subscriber, you will subscribe. If you don't subscribe, well, that will make us sad, but that's okay. I understand. If you are a subscriber, please double check your notification bell, because yes, people are not getting notified. Bells are still getting knocked off. I just had to do some today, Monday. Yep. YouTube. Anyway, so make sure to check your notification bell. If you don't subscribe, I do hope you will come back again. And when you do come back again, don't forget to bring your cup of tea. This is not a good cold tea. It's a beautiful warm tea. I will say, though, being cold has cut out some of the bitterness, which is interesting. But still, not the best cold tea. It's a good tea, but not the best cold tea. At any rate, you all have a great day, and we'll see you later. Bye.